I don't think living is a measure of time, but more so a measure of presence. I think whenever we say that someone has lived a long life, right, we always equate it to a certain number of years or a certain amount of time, right? And I think this is a big mistake that we make. I think to truly live or living is measured by the degree that we spend here in our lives being present, right? And the amount of time that we spend being present in our lives. You can have two guys, right? Let's say you have a guy that is 29 years old, right? And you also have a guy that is 70. Now, the guy that is 29 years old, for most of his life, he spent his life living with courage, right? Living with faith and conviction, living in freedom, living in happiness, living in joy, living in peace, right? All the positive, I guess, connotations that, we sort of strive to achieve, right? And then you have the guy that is 70 years old, and he has spent most of his life living with fear, living in anxiety, living in, I guess, unhappiness. He has spent most of his life living in a mental prison, a mental cage, right? For me personally, I would say the guy that is 29 years old, despite his limited amount of years on this earth, right, he has lived a longer life. And not only a longer life, but a better life than the guy that has spent 70 years old living in a mental cage and living in a mental prison, right? And so for me personally, I think the true measure of living is the amount of time that we spend being present in our lives, is the amount of attention that we truly give to the present moment. I think most of us go through our lives, right, and we live our lives in reference to, the past experiences or the past things that have happened to us in our past, right? Our past traumas, our past hurt, the people who betrayed us, the people who rejected us, people who abandoned us, right? We live our lives with a lot of negative connotation, and we literally live through our past experiences, and we bring our past experiences with us in the present moment, and we live through them, right? Or most of us, we spend our lives living in reference to a non-existent future which doesn't even exist, right? We spend a lot of time worrying what the future is gonna be like, worrying, I guess, how we're gonna make it in the future, right? We spend a lot of time living in worry in reference to the future, right? So for the most part, most of us are truly not present. Most of us truly are not, I guess, giving our attention to what is in front of us. And we live our life in reference to the things of our past or the future that simply does not exist, right? And if you live your life in that way, then you're not truly living. I would venture to say you're just existing, right? You're a passenger in your own life. You're simply allowing fate to, in a sense, rule your life. You're allowing the false narratives, the false stories, the worry, the anxiety to rob you of your present moment. Most of us truly are not present, and so most of us truly are not living. You can go in the middle of a street, right? Middle of the road, and you look around you, right? You scan your environment. And if you were to truly, I guess, access the minds of most people, you would realize that most of us truly are not present at all, right? Most of us are literally just zombies, right? Zombies walking through life. Most of us don't know what freedom, happiness, and joy and all those things feel like, because those things only exist in the present moment, and we're not being present to truly experience those things, right? Most of us aren't. See, the present moment is all we have. This right here is all we have. Any other thing that you perceive, the past that you perceive, the future that you worry about, it's all psychological. It doesn't exist. It only exists right here in our minds. So what's the point in living through, I guess, a mental cage that you create in your mind when the world is right where we are right now in this moment. And life doesn't wait for anyone. Just because you stop living doesn't mean that life is going to stop moving, right? Life isn't going to magically stop moving just because you choose to stop living. Life waits for no one. Every single day that we spend in reference to past experiences and in worry of the future, we lose a portion of our lives. Our lives literally are passing us by, right? We're losing, I guess, our life force, right? Every day that we don't spend living, we're literally dying small deaths, right? We die every day that we don't live. And we in a sense, we lose our days before we lose our lives. And every single day is a new life to me, right? Because every single day you have the choice to be different. But how many of us truly choose different? How many of us choose to be present? How many of us choose to drop, I guess, the false narratives and the false stories that we tell ourselves? Not many of us, right? Right here, right now is all you have. And so if you're not right here, right now, you're not truly living. Life is way too short. I know, some of us feel as if we were literally just dropped here on this earth, and we're sort of, I guess, not in alignment, right? We're sort of confused on what this thing is, right? So we spend a lot of time in questioning and in doubt and in fear and anxiety, right? About life in general, or what we're meant to do and how we're meant to live, right? But there truly is no blueprint to life except the one that you give it. There's no meaning to life except the one that you give it. And so we spend a lot of time searching for meaning instead of being the meaning. We spend a lot of time, I guess, trying to figure life out instead of just living, right? You are the one that gives this thing that we call life meaning. Stop searching for it and start living. Stop living in the past and allow the past to be the past and enjoy the present moment. Stop worrying about what's going to happen in the future when the future doesn't exist, right? And let's say the event that you're worrying about, right? Let's say the future event that you're worrying about becomes the present moment. You have to have the faith, the conviction, and the belief that whatever negative circumstance you're worrying about, you're going to find the answer to it. You're going to overcome it, right? If the future does become the present moment, you have to have faith that you will get through it, because you've been through worse situations in your life. So why do you, I guess, live in anxiety for the future when you know that the future, not only it doesn't exist, but if it does become the present moment, you will find the strength and the courage to overcome it, right? But you have to be present. Being present is truly the only measure of living. And if you're not being present throughout your life, then you're simply allowing life to pass you by. If you're going to be here, then be here. If you're going to be here, then give here your all. Give here your attention. Because the present that you give attention is what creates the future that you're anxious about, right? The future that you're so anxious about is being created today, right now, in this present moment. And if you're not giving it your attention, then I guess you're allowing your future to drift. And in a sense, you're unknowingly or unconsciously creating a future that you don't desire. But whenever we show up to the present moment, we're creating a future, right? And I say future because, it doesn't exist, right? But we're creating a future that we desire whenever we place all our attention on the present moment. And that is truly when we're living. That is truly when we're thriving, right? Seneca has this quote in one of his books, right? I think the book is called, The Shortness of Life. A very excellent book. Low key, I'm always putting y'all onto books, but I'm probably gonna do a different book list as well. But that's a really good book. But in the book, he has this quote that always stands out to me. Not only does it stand out to me, but I always keep it in the back of my mind to sort of keep me grounded whenever I find myself not being present in life, right? And truth be told, we all have our moments in which we're drifting, right? In which we're not present. But it's up to us to sort of become aware and raise our awareness and really catch ourselves and bring ourselves back to the present moment. And I typically use this quote to kind of keep me grounded. And the quote says, "On what grounds do you have to assume that just because a man has gray hair and wrinkles on his skin, that man has lived long? That man has not lived long. That man has been long alive." And this quote is simply alluding to what I'm saying, throughout this entire video, that living is a measure of time. Just because a man has gray hair and his skin is wrinkled doesn't mean he has spent his life living. It simply means that he's just been alive, right? He's been a walking zombie. He's just existing, right? Because living is to truly be present. Living is to give the present moment your attention and make use of the present moment. If you have goals that you want to, work towards, don't leave it up to the future. Start right now. If you're holding on to past trauma, past hurt, past, regrets, so on and so forth, and you're taking it with you to the present moment, then you have the choice to choose whether or not you want to drop it or not. You can, right? Change begins with a choice, right? But everything that we desire from life, happiness, joy, fulfillment, peace, success, all of it exists in the present moment, because the present moment is simply all that is. And it is all that we will ever have, because the future and the past is all psychological. But in this moment in time, right, you have the choice to start living. You have the choice to start being present. You have the choice to give your all to what is right here and right now. And that is a choice that you have to make. No one can make that choice for you, right? That don't believe that just because a certain amount of time has flown by that you're living. You could simply just be existing. You could just be a passenger in life, right? But when you make the choice, or when you begin to choose living, then you begin to choose presence. And that's when everything that you desire, all the abundance that you seek, begins to flow in your life. So start choosing life and start living right now, because right now is all that you truly have. And no amount of worry for the future, no amount of living through past experiences, right, is going to, in a sense, make them better. Giving your all to the present moment is what is going to give you everything that you desire from life. So start living and start being present, and start giving right here, right now, all that you have. Peace and blessings.